Hey, what's up, everyone? I think we're live. Welcome to the CM Mentors podcast. My name is Matt Graves. My co-host each week is Kyle Grandel. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, Matt. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the special holiday edition of the CM Mentors,
It is. It's
which is kind of a joke, but
the Friday before Memorial Day.
yes, it is. Speaking of which, you got any plans, man?
Um, Nothing major. I say that, but we got something pretty much every day. Friday, we're going to my buddy's 1-year-old daughter's birthday party, which will take up all the day. Sunday, my niece is getting baptized. Monday, I have a boat I need to get cleaned up to sell. I've been needing to do forever, and I just need to get
Ooh,
that done. So, yeah. What about yourself?
not bad. Not a whole lot. I'm back in South Carolina, heading over towards Myrtle Beach for the weekend. Got some lovely storms rolling in. It looks like so. It's perfect beach weather. I mean, it couldn't be any better.
That's awesome, man. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be good. This is going to be a fun one. I'm looking forward to seeing who joins in here. Ask hopefully some good questions, and otherwise, I got some topics here too that I can grill you with, Matt. So for our listeners' entertainment.
I'm terrified. You told me you had some good questions, and I was
Oh
afraid of
yeah,
what she's going to come up with.
oh yeah, that's good stuff. It's really good stuff.
So if you're in the audience, feel free to post a comment. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're calling in from, or I guess listening from, and ask away as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, we'll get some good comment. We had some really good stuff last time. We had Adam on. We had a bunch of people chiming in. So hopefully, we get some more here today.
Yeah, that was a good one. Adam brought his whole entourage too, so it was cool.
Oh yeah, it was cool. I mean, that guy Jesse did chime in, unfortunately, but can't get away from that guy sometimes.
You can't keep Jesse down.
Mm-mm. No, you cannot. So,
He's a good guy.
well, Matt, I'm gonna start you off right away here. So, as a CM, give me a good past week example of a struggle and then also a win. Anything that comes to mind here for on your end of things, something that was frustrating, you're pulling your hair out, turning gray.
My hair's gray enough, so I try not to let too much stuff get me too rattled anymore. But man, it was a busy week, but I'll say it was a fairly chill week. I don't have anything that probably want to make my hair pull out. Either that or I'm just ignoring what I've done. A win was we had an intern start this week, so it was fun to get to know him. He's out here on the project site with us, and so that was a lot of fun. Kind of getting him to get out here, walk around, see his eyes, first day on the job site type thing. So it was cool.
Oh
Well,
yeah, that's awesome. So before you get into me, I see what you're trying to do here, by the way, and trying to frown on me. Before we get into that, what do you guys do with your interns as far as like day-to-day stuff, getting them up to speed, and kind of onboarding to the site? I'm just curious.
yeah, so I wish we had a little bit more formal internship plan program, but it's kind of just left up to the project manager they're working with to kind of put something together for them. But day one, they went to our corporate office in Corpus and did all their paperwork and onboarding stuff. And then day two, we had lunch, kind of meet and greet a number of people. And then he came out to the job site and we walked around, just kind of showed him. His first day at the job site was a double header OAC meetings. So he got to jump right in and kind of meet everybody and stuff like that. And then so we've just kind of been walking around talking about the program, talking about the projects, talking about things. We have a project manager manual that kind of explains the processes and stuff that we do as a company. And so my plan with him is to kind of every week go through a chapter of that every week, and then just kind of so it's not. I gave him the book. I think he's read it all already. And I was like, "Did you learn it all?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And like, no, you didn't.
Ready to go.
And so that's the plan is to go
Yeah.
through and just kind of break it up chunk by chunk so it's digestible.
Well, that's awesome, and like when it comes to us too, we bring somebody new on. We do something similar. We have, I mean, not like a project management manual per se, but try to do some training and also have that day-to-day interaction, so they get to really see it at work on the site too. I mean, that's the whole point of the mentorship, right? The CM mentors.
Yeah. So actually, I forgot. Yesterday, I was, we use Procore as a company, so I got them logged into Procore, and I'm showing them what Procore is, and which turned into a full blown lesson of these are the drawings. You know what the plans are? We talked about all the drawings, and here's specifications, and then this is what the specifications are, and it just kind of, as you were talking about each module within Procore, it led to like a little mini lesson in itself. So it was kind of cool. He's a smart
Well,
kid, so he's picking up fast.
Well, isn't that kind of fun though too? On to be a little bit more experienced in the careers where you work with somebody that's newer, and like you said, you see the eyes wide up and you see the excitement, and then you also start talking through all the different things that we take for granted now, and not that we're experts or that we're even good at what we do, but just all those different things that we don't. It's almost like second nature. You get to decide.
When you see it all day every day, you just you kind of, I don't want to get bored of it, but it's not like fresh and exciting anymore. You start talking to it and showing somebody else what it is and how it's going and how the pieces come together, and that's cool.
Yeah, it really renews the excitement. So
it does. I kind of feed off of that. So when other people's, when you're, I think everyone does. When you're around everyone's just kind of, you're on a project, everyone's been beat down, like, and you show up to brand new, fresh, and everyone's beat down. You kind of just like hunker down, like, oh, this sucks. Or if somebody fresh comes in and kind of lifts all the excitement and stuff, and it kind of does the same to everybody. So
yeah, toxic projects, those are the ones that you walk on site. It's almost like you walk into the room in the trailer in the conference room and you can just sense it. There's like clouds hovering, there's rain that's about to let loose. It's just toxic. Man. Hey, really quick shout out, Shiloh, Sandeep, Maria. Thanks for joining us. See you in the comments there. Really glad to have you listening.
What's up, Shiloh, from AGC in Austin?
All right, Austin. I mean, it's Texas, but that's okay.
It's still. I lived in Austin for a while. Good place. I need to catch up with Shiloh though. We've connected a few times on LinkedIn, but never actually chatted. He's a good guy.
Awesome.
And then here's an Aggie. What's up, Sandeep? So, and we're representing Texas.
Sweet.
Good. Doing his master's in construction management at Texas A&M.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
And then we got a wave from Maria. Hey, Maria.
Hey, welcome. Glad everybody's listening in here. So looking forward to it. Please give us some good questions. Otherwise, we're just going to be, hey, Eric, good to see you.
Eric.
Happy Friday. We're just going to be kind of yapping here. So anybody, please give us some questions. Otherwise, I got some various topics that we can kind of cover here. So really quick, Matt, to answer my own question to you.
I thought you were distracting.
I was, but I decided to bring it back on to buy us some more time here. So I would say one of the struggles from my weekend, it's kind of boring, honestly. But so had a work comp insurance policy that we had an old carrier, and then we switched to a new carrier. And anyway, so now I have this the old carrier actually that we don't have the policy anymore. Well, now they're hounding me because they want to do almost like an exit interview type of thing. And the guy emails me this morning, and mind you, it's Friday morning on a holiday weekend. He says, "Yeah, I'm ready to come do your," he calls it an audit on Tuesday. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean an audit? Like, use that word. That's a big word to me as a business owner. What do you mean?
Scary word.
So we have some back and forth emails, phone calls. And anyways, and long story short, it's this exit interview thing I come to find out. And then I'm like, and he's like, yeah, well, we could just do it virtually. Just send me the stuff by Tuesday morning. This big list. And I'm like, dude, no. It's Friday morning on a holiday weekend. I'm not going to have my staff or myself work late for a previous insurance company policy. No. I said that's not happening. And the next week I can do that for you.
There's probably insurance people listening, so I'll keep this nice. But was he just fishing for information, or was it actually some sort of legitimate, like, we need this to close out your account type thing?
I think it's a legitimate, almost like an exit interview type situation where they want to learn more about why the policy is ended or whatever. But it's also like, hey, you gotta understand, this is an old policy. It's not my current one. So when it comes to my list of priorities, I mean, I'm sorry, but you're pretty far down here, guy. So that was a struggle. And then my win for the week, I would say, is so my team has been doing an awesome job here. Just to brag about them for a minute here, we've been doing some interviews for a new CM position coming up here to support some projects out in Ohio. And we've, over the last few weeks, we've put together a really solid interview plan and process. And they've been doing the first round interviews, and any good candidates come to me and Morgan for a second round. And I mean, they've just been killing it. I just interviewed a guy today that he just seems like a really awesome fit. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a small company like that. It's a big win to get that interview process in place and have it be, as far as we can tell, a good one.
Well, you just took the wind out of my sails, because the only agenda I had was to ask you how your interview process was going. So
Oh. All right. Well, then we're running
done.
early here, everybody. We're done.
10 minutes
kidding,
in,
of course.
hit all the high points. Let's see. Actually, we got a question from Shiloh. Let's see if we can get this up here.
Awesome.
Just speaking from safety, is it feasible for a CM to truly vet subs based on safety ratings? I.e., will you go with a higher bid of a company that has a good safety program versus the guy is questionable but the lower on the bid? I'll let you go from your perspective there.
That's a really good question. And so my answer is going to come from kind of the process that we have to go through working in the industrial manufacturing world. So we have to go through a company called ISN or ISNet World. And they essentially act as a gatekeeper for these large manufacturers. And we basically, as a company that wants to work for a manufacturer, we have to submit our safety programs. We have to submit our OSHA forms, our 300A forms, reports of any injuries, incidents, et cetera, how many working hours did we have for employees, all the, any TRIR ratings, all those safety ratings. It goes to this company first. Then based on that, we get assigned a rating, like a letter grade, if you will, an A through F. Just like in school, A is good, F is not so good, but C's get degrees. No, I'm kidding. So we get assigned this category, this letter grade, and then based on that, that's kind of how we get vetted to these manufacturers, to these clients of ours. So they see these ratings when they want to invite us to bid on a project. And so going to Shiloh's point here, it definitely is a big deal. And I think it is feasible to vet subs based on ratings when using a system like we have to use with ISN. When there's a formal program to submit all of your paperwork, all of your injury incident reports, anything like that. Now, with that being said, if you don't have like a big software company that handles it, like we have to deal with, then I would say it still could be feasible, but that's where you have to be clear on the bidding process of you got to ask for the documentation you need. And then furthermore, when you get it, of course, you got to review it and then make the suggestions appropriately. So Matt, what do you think on that one?
You got way more experience in vetting via safety than I do, because I could have never went in that level of detail that you have. But yeah, I know a lot of clients, if you got a certain safety rating, they don't even think about you. They just, your proposal goes in the trash, So yeah, Shiloh probably has, I know he's in the safety side of things. He probably has more experience than probably either one of us does, but yeah, it's kind of a funny thing where safety has become, and this is kind of going to his next point. This is, he says, I know the paper correct answer, but let's talk the real deal. Nice. It's funny. Like I got a buddy and buddies that, own small businesses, right? And their whole business revolves around their Google rating, and if 5 stars on Google, and if somebody gives them a 3-star, they contact them, see what they can do to make it right to get it a 5-star, right? It's just like there's a game being played there, because if your review gets low, it's almost the same with safety ratings, where I don't want to say there's a game being played, but that safety rating rules the world in some it'll put you out of business if your safety rating gets too, especially if you're doing public work and that sort of stuff. You can't get any more jobs. So it's very interesting that I don't know enough about, but it's a very interesting topic.
Well, it's a great question, and you're right, Matt. It's a really interesting topic, and I don't think there's a lot of people that really do know it unless they have to deal with it day in and day out. And that one too, I should clarify part B to what I said earlier, that those ratings A through F. Yes, A is good, F is bad, but there are variances depending on the company. So even if you have maybe, let's say, a bad rating, it is still possible, of course, to get a variance with that company if they really want to work with you. So. But there's a lot of different parts to that. It's like the culture of the company, and it's how well do you know the team and the project manager, and what's your relationship from past experiences. A lot of that factors in too. It's not usually a black and white case, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, and there's people who make whole careers around that alone, right? And so when I say I don't really know enough about it, it's there's so many things around the construction industry that, like, man, there's people who just do that all day, every day. And then Eric's got a throwback to sometimes D's get degrees as well.
Okay, I thought we already covered this in Eric's episode. It was a joke. Anybody listening, we don't actually mean that. Unless you're Eric.
Did we ever give Eric a final grade? I polled the audience, and
Well, I think the grade just went down if you're asking me, but he's a pretty good guy, I guess. So
Eric's a good guy. Good guy.
we'll keep it up there for the time being.
I mean, I give him an A- because you always have room to grow.
That's good. I like that. I like that.
Eric says, "What makes a good candidate for your interview process?" I guess he's talking about if it gets through your first line of defense. Maybe.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, so we have what we feel is a pretty standard process in place right now. We've come up with, and I mean, there's the first screening, if you will, the initial screening, which is looking at the resumes, making sure that it actually lines up with the job description, with the position that we posted for. Believe it or not, you'd be surprised at some of the wild stuff that you see. I mean, our construction manager position, we had a guy apply that was like in real estate, like not even the right same industry, in industrial or in manufacturing or anything. And I mean, it's not just about the experience, but I mean, this is a somewhat leadership type role, like for a construction manager, you got to have at least a little experience to get past that first part for that screening. So once they get past the resume screening, and we verify that they have at least somewhat applicable experience to the role, and that things look to be good. I mean, and honestly, things like formatting are important to us. It doesn't need to be a great or a perfect format, but it should be something that shows there was some thought put into it. Spelling, grammar mistakes to me are a red flag. If you're not spending the time on your resume to make it look good and follow proper English grammar and punctuation for our country and our work, for what we're doing, then that tells me you didn't put a lot of time and effort into it. So how are you going to actually do on a job site for stuff that's really critical? Writing emails to clients, publishing reports. And so getting past that resume screening is kind of the first step. Then we get into the interview process, and we start talking about, then for us, it's all about competencies and culture. So how do the competencies that are needed for the position, maybe it's project management, maybe it's teamwork, maybe it's priority management, or like customer focus. Those are some examples. So those could be some competencies, but then of course the culture is, how do the questions and how do the answers fit in with us as a team as well. So kind of trying to keep that answer a little shorter instead of going into more detail.
I think it was good.
Good. Hopefully it was good for you too, Eric. What else do we got?
Let's see. What's up, Josh?
Josh.
Actually, he just got a big promotion in the last week or two. So congrats, Josh.
Hey, congrats.
He says, let's discuss the importance of following the contract. For example, when things are good, are we more likely to accept scope gap without a change order?
Okay. Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you should take the first crack at this one, Matt.
I think he's talking about, Josh, maybe the wording was a little funny, maybe not completely getting it, but when things are good, I think you're talking about like when you have a good relationship with the owner, with the client, are you going to accept a contract that has some scope gap in it, in the contract, right? Maybe they don't spelling out all the terms and all that, or maybe all the conditions. Even on when things are good, I don't know. You don't want to ruffle the feathers up early whenever you're still kind of in the honeymoon stage, but I've been burned too many times on a contract when things go south fast. And then it's like, well, it's not in the contract. Or I've seen this happen too, where the guy that you are working with, he's an executive at this company, and you work out the deals of the contract, and yeah, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. No, we don't need to put that in the contract. We got you. And then that guy gets fired. That guy leaves. The next person comes in. They don't know, and they don't care about all your handshake deals. And so they say, your contract says this. I don't care about whatever so-and-so made. He got fired for doing this sort of thing, right? And so now it's like all your handshakes don't mean anything.
Yeah.
So I like to have it all, I don't know. I like to have it all written in the contract, and just, you can even explain to them like that, in my opinion, like what happens if you get hit by a bus and the next person comes in and they don't know these things. I think you can do that without, if you have a good relationship, they should understand.
Well, exactly. And that's, my answer was going to start with that exact same word there, is relationship. And to me, it comes from, it kind of stems from building trust. And the relationship and the trust you build, it all comes from, I mean, a lot of the times from past experiences, from whether it's from actually working firsthand and experiencing that person on a job site and how they operate, or maybe it's word of mouth, which different type of experience, not necessarily a one-to-one in person, but it's through somebody else. So you have that relationship and that trust that's established. And once you have that, and someone's going to take care of you, you're more likely to take care of them too. I mean, that's the way these job sites are. I've had that exact scenario where I have contractors, as an owner's rep, I have a general contractor I'm working with that, we found something that wasn't exactly spelled out very well in the scope. It could technically probably be a change order, but they also know that we're going to take care of them. We're going to go to bat for them with the owner, make sure that they're taken care of on things too. And so they say, you know what, we're just going to take care of this. It's not a big deal. It's a few bucks on the grand scheme of this scale of this project. And because we trust you and we know that you trust us, we're going to just take care of this, more or less off the record, kind of a scenario for you. So, I mean, but it all stems back to that relationship and that trust. You got to build the trust. You got to establish a solid relationship. And then, I mean, the contract's always important every single time, always. But sometimes, I mean, there are gaps.
Yeah, there's always going to be some sort of gap, even on the best contracts, probably. The best contracts I've seen is a lot of times too, where, especially on a contract where the project is, and maybe it's black and white, where the contractor they'll go in and they'll put a list of their qualifications, right? I mean, and the more detailed the qualifications, the better, because that helps everyone understand where we are. And they help, okay, we assumed this or we assumed that because the documents weren't clear. And then it keeps it, and then you can work out those terms up front, like, oh, no, you assumed that, but we meant this. And you can work it out before you get down the road. And now your building comes to a screeching halt because you're fighting over something that they assumed wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. So. Well, and last little point on that is, where the assumptions get tricky is when you have the embedded contractors, the ones that have been there for a long time, the resident ones doing a lot of work, when they know the scope better than maybe even the engineer that put the RFP together, because they know what it's going to really take to get the job done versus the new bidders that have been invited to this bid conference or this pre-bid walkthrough. And now you have these competing ideas of, hey, this is what you guys say it's going to take, but this is really what it's going to take. And so, how do you handle that then? Do you tell them, hey, well, you got to bid the document even though we know it's going to be wrong? That's the sticky situation that as a construction manager we got to manage sometimes.
Yeah, because if they bid it the right way, they're not going to be a little bid either, probably, right? Because they're going to have to do this, and this as well. So
exactly right. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Let's see if I can sand deep.
Here we go.
Because can you tell me how? And this is I'm going to tell you up front, Sandy, before we even get into it, this is a trick question. But can you tell me how the job market is going to be in the next 6 months? I'm planning to graduate this December. Any suggestions to find a full-time job? I'm currently doing my internship with Moss as a project engineer. I'm looking for a full-time project management path. I'm going to say first, if I knew what the job market was going to be like in 6 months, I'd be a millionaire. But I'd be able to play the market just right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you read one article, right, and we're heading into a recession, or we're actually in a recession because of whatever indicators, right? And the next one says, no, that's all fake. I do think, funding is getting harder to get, but at the same time, I think there's certain niches or certain industries, not industries, what's the word I'm looking for, sectors, like, a lot of infrastructure. They're pumping a lot of infrastructure bucks into the economy. Like high-rise commercial buildings probably aren't building anymore like they were. It depends on what area you're in. In downtown Austin, they've still got a dozen tower cranes up. Child will have to tell us, but I mean, you could they're everywhere. In some other areas, that's dried up. In New York City, they're working on converting all their old high-rise office buildings into residential towers. There's a big changeover like that happening. So I think in 6 months, you're going to be fine. I think, but who knows? I graduated college in 2010 as we were coming out of the last recession, and you couldn't find work. So I knock on wood. I hope it's not going to be that way, but it's too early to tell, man. I don't know. I'm not an economist by any means. But what are you seeing, Kyle?
Well, I think your answer's spot on. I think it depends on the sector, because they all react so differently to the
Mm-hmm.
changes with the government, with the global economy, with the needs and the policies and the legal and blah 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 blah. So, anyways, but sector wise, they're different. So it depends on which sector you're looking at and which sector you're focusing on and which sector the sandbox you play in,
Yeah.
and that's really what's going to determine the direction. And but even then, how do you predict it? It's really hard to do that. Like, for example, I work in industrial manufacturing, and thankfully, I mean, knock on wood, food and beverage, from what I'm seeing, hasn't slowed down. And pandemic actually kind of increased the need for that because people were staying at home more and eating more food at home and cooking more meals, etc. And that's been really good. And that's what I've been working in. But it's not to say that it won't go down in the next year or next 2 years. It's supply and demand. It's just you kind of have to wait and see what's going to happen and look at different indicators, and it's just difficult because different sectors react so much differently.
There you go. Go down to Austin, Shiloh. Just take the trip from College Station to Austin. They got 36 tower cranes right now. I think a lot of it's geographical too, right? Just follow the money, and there's going to be work somewhere. It feels like it. Texas is booming. Houston's going crazy, and so it's. Alex says the job at Sandeep. So the job market looks to be picking up in certain areas. Depends where you're looking to take a job and type of company you're looking for. So yeah, kind of the same.
Yep. Good.
It's confirmation right there. It's just follow the money. It's wherever the money's flowing.
Well, and there's definitely no shortage of construction work. I mean, you look around anywhere and you're going to see it. But again, it just depends on which sector you're in. I mean, roads are torn up freaking everywhere right now. I don't know if anybody else is seeing that, but no matter where I go.
Yeah, and I think it's the same crew doing it all too.
No kidding. Must be. It's taking forever.
Where's Jess? We need Jess back on here.
Jess.
You can build us some bridges. He was going to join, but he sent me a message. He couldn't make it. He's out fishing. I was like, all right, I'd rather be where you are.
All right.
Tyler says, what's up, Tyler? It's another guy I haven't really been able to connect with very much. I see him on LinkedIn, but relationships and past experiences matter both within the parties involved as well as how the parties have treated others' past clients, partners in the past.
Yep. Well said.
Well said.
Well said. All right. So, Matt, I have another question for you here.
Go for it.
So I have to bring it up here because we have to talk about it. We got to talk about it live here. Your 25 hacks. So, and I wanted to bring this up because you sent me a text the other day. I mean, you're getting some awesome views on it, some great engagement. I mean, that article is killing it, man. So really quick, before we go into some more questions here, I just want to know a little bit about that. I mean, you did this originally, a year ago? Is that right? With a smaller number, or what's the background?
Yeah, so I guess I know what it feels like to go viral on LinkedIn. It's not, 200, I'm just over 200,000 impressions. So I was like, holy crap.
Whoa, don't forget me.
And yeah, keep holding on there. Not going anywhere fast. No, but it was cool. So last fall or something like that, I sent one out. It was like, I think called 22 hacks. And this is I kind of revised it and added a few more. Because really I kind of took it from a few of our guests too. And as we say, hey, what are some ideas? You kind of stole some ideas from our guests, but thank you.
You
collaborated with some ideas. Anyway, some really good stuff that some people have said on the podcast and kind of added it to it, and which made it grow to 25. Kind of revamped some of the old ones, worded them a little bit better. I kind of liked, but yeah, I did it last fall and it got a pretty good attention. And then I went through and kind of wrote and expanded. So it's just basically 25 lines, right? And I went through there and kind of actually made a post for each one for 22. And it was easy content, right? Because I had a heading and just got to go filling it in. So I did that last year. And then I was thinking like, man, like my followers on LinkedIn's probably tripled since then because we started doing this podcast, started getting a little bit more attention. And we're doing all this sort of stuff. I was like, I really need to put that out again. And it's really good timing too, because there's, like we got an intern here. And we got, there's interns entering the market. There's a whole bunch of people graduating right now. I was like, this would be good timing just to get this back out there again. So I put it in the newsletter last week, and then I put it on LinkedIn, and then I went to bed and I woke up and it was like I was famous. But no, it was cool. I've got a lot of, it's this, the funny part about it is there's no rocket science in there. It's all the simple things. And that's actually what I'm writing right now for the newsletter for tomorrow, is like essentially just do the simple things right consistently and you'll go a long ways. And that's really all those hacks are. I call them hacks because I thought that would be a little buzzy and clickbaity, but it seemed anyway. But there's no rocket science in there. But yeah, a lot of people are saying, man, these are great for any industry. These are great. And really they're great for, I got to remind myself some of them sometimes. And many of those on there, I'm not great at. I'm not going to even pretend to be great at them, but it's something I'm trying to get better at all the time.
Well, and isn't there a saying in a lot of like movies and television shows like, hey, let's go back to the basics. Let's get the basics down solid if we want to make some real progress, make some real improvements. I mean, to me, that's kind of, yeah, let's really nail down these fundamentals. Let's really get these core things down, and then once we have those, then we can really start to make a big difference. Because a lot of people screw those up.
It's very easy to, especially when you're on a project and your hair's on fire and everyone's tensions are high. It's really easy to, forget about being empathetic or forget about going out and like getting to know the guys in the field, right? Like you just want to come in, go to your office, lock the door, and be a keyboard warrior,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, and before we leave that really quick here, are there any top ones there like that really stick out in your mind? And like if you're gonna pick a top three or even just a top one or something like that, good for the listeners to hear about.
Man, the number one is RTFC, read the F in contract. And that's probably the biggest thing most people don't do. And there's a reason I put it number one. And it's, I'll have people come up to me, like say a junior project manager, like assistant project manager, something like that. It's like, what should we do here? I'm like, I don't know. What does the contract say? Like every contract is going to tell you what to do. What does it say to do? And then the contract is also all the specs, all the plans, all the everything, right? It's all tied together. So if you don't know, you signed up to do what this paper, all these documents tell you to do. How can you do it if you don't know what they say? And so that's probably the biggest one that I see a lot of people just don't do well enough, or don't do consistently enough, right? Another one was, we've talked about this on here before, is just if you hear something you don't know, especially when you're starting out, write it down and go Google it. That's really how I kind of got my feet under me when I started out doing federal contracting. And you're sitting in meetings and they're throwing out acronyms and acronyms of acronyms and all these sort of things. I'm just constantly just writing stuff down, go to back to my desk and Google it just so I just don't feel like a complete idiot next time I go to the meeting, right? And at least I know what the acronym means. I don't know what the rest you're talking about, but start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And then another one, there's a whole, I don't have it in front of me. There's a bunch of good ones, but keeping a follow-up list. It's something I got from David Allen's Getting Things Done book. He says, obviously you need to keep your to-do list, right? But also a follow-up list. Because a lot of times what happens is I even when I'm busy and I don't keep a follow-up list, it's one thing I try to do, but I forget about doing sometimes, right? So I'll send you an email, Kyle, I need you to do X, Y, Z. And then it's off my plate, but if I don't remember that I gave that to you and then you drop the ball, well, I dropped the ball because I kind of delegated it to you. So we all failed, right? So they're just kind of tracking that. And so if in a couple of days, like, hey, Kyle, did you get that? Oh, yeah, I'm getting to it. Or it can tickle that. Maybe you had a question, but, it can kind of keep at least keep the ball in the air instead of just somebody completely dropping it.
Yeah. So. Well, that's a really good point, and I do remember talking about that. But it is worth saying again is that follow-up list, because just like you're saying, if even if you delegate something but it doesn't actually get done, you don't actually close that item. Yeah. Guess what? It's still open. It never got done. And so if the last person your client talked to was you, well, guess who didn't get it done? It was you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so it's sometimes, when everyone's hair is on fire too, it's easy for balls to get dropped. So being able to at least kind of have that list too, to kind of, have a little tickle reminder for everybody. It's
that's a good point.
Do you have a favorite out of that list or a couple favorites?
Well, honestly, so the contract one, and I think you wrote about that one as well, on a separate post. But that one to me was also really critical because just like you're saying about knowing what to do from the contract, but it also tells you a lot about how the parties are structured and kind of the relationships that you can expect on the project. Because depending on the type of contract and how it's written and where the risk is shared, where it's not shared, it'll kind of give you some cues and some clues as to maybe a direction the project could go. And so with that, you can kind of see that direction developing, and you can start to see, all right, we're starting to see scope gaps here, but it could be because of this. This is a design build project, but they're not treating it as a design build project when they should be, or they're kind of mixing up those project delivery methods. To me, I see that happen a lot, where people are, especially around design build, the owners, the clients are confusing design build with what Matt Vetter likes to talk about, the true design build, like really coming in, giving you that more or less turnkey type solution, where it's like, well, that's not really what a lot of companies are actually asking for or expecting or doing. So confusing the contract language and thinking you're into a different type of contract than you really are, to me, is a big one. So that was, I mean, not to steal what you said, but it was a really good one that it's really good for people to know as they're getting into the field.
Jeremy Harrison liked it too. Yeah, put it in every one of your emails, Jeremy. They'll
Yeah.
all appreciate
Here we
it.
go, Jeremy.
And then Alex, that's really, he said he loved the list of 25. I really wish I had that when I entered the job market. And that's really kind of why I did it in that first time. It was like, man, these are things that it took me over a decade to learn. And a lot of times you had to learn the hard part. You had to learn it. You had to learn to be empathetic because I wasn't. And, and just, and just so over time, you kind of learn a few things, and, you've fallen off your bike, skinned your knees, you learned, you got yourself back up. And so trying to make it a resource. Hopefully somebody kind of, and really the whole podcast and really kind of everything we're trying to do is just that, is trying to like give a stepping stone for the, those coming into the market.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and for anybody who's listening that hasn't seen it yet, it was 25 hacks to win as a young, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. 25 hacks, 25 hacks to win as a young construction professional. It was in the newsletter. There's actually a downloadable PDF in last week's Construction Curiosities newsletter. So selfish plug, I guess, go to constructionyeti.substack.com, subscribe. And but in last week's newsletter, it was a downloadable link in there as well. And so it's on LinkedIn. And so
if you haven't seen it yet, you need to. It's a really good read.
If you haven't seen it yet, I don't know how you haven't. It seems like everyone shared it. I was like, holy crap. So it was exciting. I guess, I mean, it's I guess it resonated with folks, so that's cool.
Well, from the Construction Yeti himself.
Ehab says, what to do to get an internship as a project coordinator? I'll let you want to take a step?
Well, I think as far as applying for any position, it's about the net that you're going to cast, and I think you have to find the right companies to apply with, that, I mean, obviously that have the need to begin with, number one, but then number two, that fit your culture, your values, and fit the type of work you want to be doing. As now, that's the company you're going to apply for. Now, to actually get it, of course, now we're into the discussion of getting to the interview process, having the right background, right skills. And so, maybe that's more of the question here is how to develop the skills. But I guess, what I've seen in construction industry, especially, is that you pretty much have to come into it and you have to accept whatever position you can get, so you can start working your way up to get those skills and start learning about them from somebody that has them. And so maybe if you want to get a certain position, in this case, the project coordinator, you may not be able to, just apply for one if you don't have the experience and show it, because an employer like me is going to say, well, I'm sorry, but I need somebody that I don't need to teach how to do this. I need somebody I can put on the job that can just do it. So you may need to start kind of at the more ground level, start at the basics. Here we go, Matt. We're full circle already. Start at the basics and work your way up from there. But Matt, what do you think?
You've always heard it, but I've seen it more and more lately. It's all about networking too. It's not what you. I mean, yes, you got to know the basics. You got to know what you know to do, but a lot of times it's not what you know; it's who you know.
Yeah.
If you know the right people, or you kind of get introduced, and somebody vouches for you, well, then you kind of get pushed. Especially if the job market turns south and things do get harder to get, then it's definitely going to be good to like have a reference, have a foot in, have it's who at that point. Because when there's 100 job posts or 100 job applications for single posting, like, man, it's just a stack of resumes. But if you have a personal connection with somebody, and I'm a huge proponent of making, I mean, obviously I am because I'm doing it all the time, but making content on LinkedIn, you can really expand your network fast on there. Put out some thoughtful content, engage on other people's content, get in there and just, even if make some posts, but get in there and leave thoughtful comments on other people's posts, and they'll start to recognize you. If there's a company you want to go work for, and one of their say vice presidents makes a bunch of posts and he's active on LinkedIn, go make a comment on every one of his posts. Something thoughtful. You'll stand out. You'll probably rise to the top. So.
Well, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought up the networking, because I'll just speak on the hiring side of things, especially. I mean, right now we're hiring. As a business owner and somebody who's hiring, it's also a much bigger deal to me if I have somebody that there's some kind of personal or network connection that comes into the door to be interviewed, versus somebody that I just have no idea who they are. And that's just human nature. Is that, I mean, if there is that trust level that's already been established to some degree, I'm going to be much more inclined to talk with them, maybe even if the experience isn't as good, because there's already some trust built up there.
Hiring is such a crapshoot, I guess, for lack of a term. Like, somebody's putting on a front, for an interview. They can, like, you don't know who you're getting. So if you know them ahead of time, and you kind of start to know who they are and what they're about, I mean, it takes a lot of the risk out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the networking point too, like you said, Matt, that was some great advice. Comment on their posts a little bit. The important thing there is to add some value to the ideas and the information they're putting out there. That's going to get them to recognize you and understand a little bit about you. And if there's a fit there, they may even come to you.
Yeah, don't just go on their post and just put agreed. Like, okay, cool.
Right, exactly.
You got to stand out. You got to be thoughtful. You got to stand out, add value. So.
Yep. All right, Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot here again for a question. Oh, here. No, you know what? Let's do this one first, and then I got one.
All right. Tyler says, what certifications courses are y'all seeing gaining traction as being recognized on the up and coming track? CAPM, Google Search, Procore, etc.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll take a stab at this one first. So my thoughts are, at least for what we look at, and we're hiring right now. It's one of the things we look at is certifications. And so ones that are big to us are PMPs, CAPMs in this case, things of that nature. Something that's through the PMI, Project Management Institute, CMAA. So when it comes to the CCM or the CACM or the CMIT, we like to see those as well. But there's also some good ones coming out now with LCI, Lean Construction Institute. There's registered Scrum certifications. There's AGC has project management certificates for construction. I would say, if you, in my opinion, if you want to pursue some certifications, I would go towards some of those big, well-known, established organizations and pursue theirs. I'm not going to say that some of the Google ones and Procore, the LinkedIn ones aren't valuable. They could be good skills to have, but on my end of things, I don't know how well that information's been vetted by true construction industry professionals. And so I'm going to trust the AGCs, the CMAAs, the LCIs, the organizations that are dedicated to construction. And well, PMI too. PMP is, of course, very valuable. I'm going to trust those ones probably higher than I would some of those others. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a PMP. I got the PMP certification a few years ago, and it's even that. I mean, it's a good certification. It's highly regarded in the world, but it's almost, for if you're talking construction specific, it's almost too generic. I mean, it's for all project managers. Well, there's project managers in every industry, right? And so even some of the questions are very open-ended. They have to be open-ended. CMAA, they've got a whole new, especially if you're on up and coming, maybe you don't qualify, you don't have the years of experience to qualify for maybe the PMP or even the CCM. They have a whole kind of developmental track where you can be a CMIT and a, what do you call it, CACM, Certified Associate Construction Manager.
Yep.
And they've got like different level. I think CMIT, there's a whole steps ladder, like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and you can walk up it. So I think, if it's on your resume and you've worked through these things, an employer may, you may not have qualified yet, because if you're supposed to have, I don't even know what it is, 4 years of experience for CCM, I think it is.
Right. Yep.
And you only have 3, but you've done all these other steps and they're seeing this progress in your career. I think that's huge. I mean, the Google certs, I mean, you can all get certified anything on Google right now, I think, but again, you're getting more general information, I think less construction information. So
I also feel like, and now granted, I'm going to say I haven't done many, if any of them, but when it comes to like the Google certs and the LinkedIn and stuff, and part of the reason I don't value it a whole lot when it comes to looking at these positions I'm hiring for is because there's a lot of people that are scamming with them. And CACM with PMP certification, CCM, you can verify those can be verified. You can call up the organization, you can say, hey, we need to verify certification for this person, and it can be done. Assuming that it's public information. But like a lot of those bigger organizations, you can verify those certifications in the hiring front, whereas LinkedIn or Google certs, I don't know what that process looks like, so I just don't know that I put a lot of weight in it.
that's a good point. Yeah, I know like PMP and CMAA, they have a directory of all their. I mean, you can just go. It's like just a database. If I can look up Kyle Grandel and see your CCM certification.
Right. In other words, they're just giving them out these days.
If they'll give it to an electrician, they'll give it to anybody.
Oh yeah, here we go again, folks. All right. So Matt, I'm going to ask my question now before we jump into any others. So, because I had a good friend of mine that I've worked with on some projects before. He comes from a manufacturing company, and he asked me some questions about, and he wanted to know a little bit more about communication. So he's been listening to our podcast, and his question was around project communication. So us as construction managers communicating with the project team, with the project managers, engineers, architects, whoever it may be. And he kind of wanted to know a little bit about that for how we, best practices, maybe, some different ways, methods that we do it that work well. So shout out to Greg for the question. Thanks a lot for that question. It's a really good one and really important one. So Matt, I want to turn this one on you first. What are some good ways that you communicate, between yourself, project team, to the owner, things of that nature?
I think every project's a little different. There's no one size fits all answer to anything. I think having the knowledge that every project's a little different, and you got to speak the language of your audience, right? I'm going to talk to the owner in different words and terms and in different ways than I'm going to talk to the contractor, or I'm going to talk to a subcontractor, or I'm going to talk to my own internal team, or if I want to talk to the architect. Like, being able, if I go out there and talk to the owner in the same way I talk to the general contractor, the subcontractor, like, I may be using terms they don't understand, right? It depends on the complexity of your owner, right? Some owners, they don't know. They know you're building a building, so you got to use like a lot of analogies and be like, all right. I worked with a guy one time, and we were remodeling an old school, and he used this analogy to the owner, and like their eyes got this big around. But he's like, because we don't have money to go fix everything. We were fixing pieces and parts kind of as we had the money, right? And we're like, okay, we're gonna fix this thing, but this thing's still gonna be good, right? And maybe it's a pump. We're replacing the I can't think of an example right now, but anyway, we're not replacing every component in the system. But you touch this thing and then the next thing breaks. It's like dominoes. And so he used the analogy in front of him with them that was like, it's like we have an old lady like on the surgery table in the ER, in the emergency room of the OR, right? And stuff's happening, stuff like livers are failing and all these sort of things. It's like, I'm not going to stop and ask permission. Like, I almost just have to act, right? And just start to fix things. And like, we just have to do it. We just have to act because things are, as it goes. And that was a really rambling explanation, but it was an analogy at the time that they understood, right? Other than just kind of explain like, okay, well, and start talking all technical terms like, okay, well, we had to do this because the pump failed and had this thing, and just start talking over their head. So I don't know. I think the biggest thing is just really knowing your audience and talking their language.
Mm-hmm.
There's a long way to get to there.
No, I think it's a great answer, and I think we've talked about it before with other podcast guests as well. And I mean, it really comes down to what we do a lot as construction managers is, of course, I mean, we work for our customers, we work for our clients. We have to kind of come into their processes, their ways of working, and understand that, and then also, I mean, communicate effectively within that. I mean, it doesn't do me any good, for example, if I have a project manager who's very busy all the time, doesn't have any time for phone calls or text messages, and only communicates via email, for me to text them all the time. I mean, we need to figure out how our teammates communicate the best, what their best method is, preferred method, and there can be a lot of different things that drive that. And then I think it's our job to understand that and match it in the way that we have to be effective.
But also, I will argue the point that even if somebody wants to text and email all the time, like sometimes you still got to go and have face-to-face conversation with them, and just because a lot of stuff can get lost in translation when you're doing just text messaging all the time, right? So just, and knowing too, I mean, not everything, you can't build a whole project via text message. Like some stuff has to be documented a little bit more formally in other way, so, well, I sent you a text that this was a problem, that your soil was bad. Like, okay. So.
No, I definitely agree with that point as well. I mean, and at the end of the day, we're humans in construction. There's a human interaction that gets lost if it's not in person. If it's over text message, especially over email, you lose that sense of the emotion behind it. And if you don't understand the emotion, do you really understand where somebody's trying to get to and maybe why they're asking a question a certain way or what could be driving it?
One of my biggest pet peeves is if somebody, how to say it's like gets onto subordinate, really, like that's a teaching experience. Don't send them a text. Don't send them an email. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like whenever you get like an email that's like, you shouldn't have done it this way, and two, it feels like they're screaming at you via email too, right?
Oh yeah, and because I mean I've had it where I thought somebody was upset with me and mad at me, and so I'm sitting there stewing about it, and I'm sweating and I'm getting anxious, and then I go talk to them, and it's like we're still best friends. I'm okay. I guess I just didn't know how to read your email, but it's just emails and texts. They need to be used sparingly when it comes to those kinds of things, I think.
They can be dangerous.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps a little bit there, Greg, with the question here. I mean, project communication is a tricky thing, and knowing your audience. Well said, Matt.
I'm not going to read all these, but Shiloh has Jocko Willnick's 10 rules to be strategic. Or be strategic. Go on the offense. I will read it. Go on the offense. Make your life better than a movie. Take ownership. Seize your opportunities. Believe. Study leadership. Be willing to do whatever it takes. Get up early. Stop lying to yourself. That's good stuff. Jocko's the man.
Good stuff. To take ownership. We talked about that a bunch on this podcast. That's a recurring theme.
And I'll let you read the next comment.
I'm sorry. That's too small. I don't think I can read that.
How do you get an electrician out of the way on the job site? Hand them a broom.
Well, if the other trades get out of our way when they're supposed to, it wouldn't be an issue.
Oh man, good. Time's fun. We're running up here on 54 minutes. Any other final questions before we wrap this up? Or did you have any more questions, Kyle?
I think, yeah, actually, but I want to get into one more here with you.
All right.
Because this was, so I was driving down to South Carolina this week. I was listening to some podcasts and I listened to this really interesting one called All In. And it's hosted by a bunch of guys that were pretty successful over in Silicon Valley. Kind of grew some companies up, sold them. I don't know much about their backgrounds aside from, I mean, they were very successful, growing companies, et cetera. So very knowledgeable in the area. And where I'm going into is they were talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and this is actually a couple months old. This is when ChatGPT was really gaining some traction, and they were talking about AI and what it's going to look like in the future, and maybe some of the trends and things to watch out for. So I wanted to bring it up with you, Matt, as a conversation because I wanted to get your thoughts and gauge a curiosity on AI in construction. I mean, have you seen much for trends about how it's being used or how people might talk about using it, or because it's really fascinating stuff. And I mean, Chat GPT alone, I mean, people are using it like right now like crazy. I mean, I use it all the time. I use it for various things, proofreading, editing, whatever, so forth. But when it comes to construction specifically, I don't know that I've seen a lot yet. So I want to just bring that up and see if you're have some thoughts.
Some people are using it. I mean, right now it's still such a buzzword, right? Everybody's got an AI solution for everything. And oh man, I put it in one of my newsletters, and I can't remember the guy's name put together, but he basically put it together a Notion spreadsheet or on Notion, right? A template.
Hmm.
And he was adding every time somebody would have an AI tool, he'd put it on a spreadsheet. When I shared it, it was up to like 200. And then like 3 days later, I sent him a message, hey, I shared your thing. It was cool. And he goes, oh yeah, no, it's not 200 anymore. Now it's like 250. And it's probably up to 1,000 now, right? Because every time you blink, there's another AI solution. But no, there's a few cool people doing some cool things. Disperse, they've got a real cool thing where they'll send people to your job site, take 360-degree photos for you. You know, they started without doing that, and then they realized that a lot of people weren't taking their own photos. That was too much work. So they said, okay, we'll just take the pictures for you. So they'll send somebody to your job site, take your photos for you. They'll send them back to their office, and they have a cool AI human element hybrid. So they'll look at your photos and they'll basically adjust your schedule based on completion, based on what the photos are saying. They'll look for deficiencies. So it's in the magic box, but between AI and human interaction, they're basically training the machine with every photo they put in there too. But it's not just, I don't know how much AI stuff you've used really, but you put something in and then it spits out garbage, right? Just because it's not smart enough yet. And so they're training it they've got architects and engineers on staff that'll look at your pictures and say, hey, you've got a deficiency here, or you've got a problem like your ductwork's where your conduit's supposed to, actually probably the other way around, your conduit's where your ductwork's supposed to be. That's the way it always goes.
Oh, jeez.
And then so they'll start throw up a red flag, right? This doesn't
Yeah.
match the model, or this doesn't match the plans. So they're like helping you with your quality assurance. And they'll also have a thing that shows, so if, say you're a project executive and maybe you only have time to go walk the project once a week or whatever it is, they can show you where all the work's taking place. Say you've got a big high-rise building, it'll start showing the trades and what work has been taking place that week. So you'll know all the work was happening in levels 3, 4, and 5. So you don't even want to waste your time almost going up to the upper levels, right? And it'll start showing that trending. So if for a long time you've got a whole bunch of working down here, it's just a check, right? You should still be maintaining it and maintain your schedules, all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of another check, another layer on top of it. You can already start seeing the flowing. And they just unveiled it's almost like a Scrum board, sort of, but they'll automatically update your tasks based on the photos. So it's a pretty cool thing. I like it. I've never actually used it. I've talked to them a few times. I think it's cool. But I like it because it's not just purely, not relying 100% on the robots. It's a robot human element. So I like that until they get the robots smart enough. There's people like Jet Build. They've got a project management system, kind of like Procore, sort of. They just came out with a AI module, I guess you call it, where it'll write your scopes of work for you. So if you're going out to bid, right, and you're building a building, it'll write your scope of work for all these things. I don't know a whole lot of the ins and outs of it, but something I saw they were just talking about the other day. So it's out there. I think it's coming. I think it's still really, 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 really early. Obviously, everyone's trying to figure out what to do with the AI thing and how it's going to make a bigger impact as the world turns. But and 99.9% of all these AI solutions are going to be bankrupt and fail because they're just not good enough, I guess. But yeah, no, some good ones are going to rise out of it. It's going to be cool to see.
Oh, well, that's why that podcast was so interesting because I mean, these guys, they know their Silicon Valley stuff. They know their tech companies. They worked, so some of them worked at Google, Microsoft, whatever, Apple. Like they have the knowledge and the experience that they know what they're talking about. And so hearing them kind of talk through some of the different scenarios to look for in the future and how these companies operate at like a high strategic level too, it was just fascinating. So you get a chance to check it out. Called All In. It was really interesting. And anybody listening too, you got any other cool tech things for construction you want to shout out to? Put them in the comments. Love to hear about them and do some research myself. So
Yeah, I've been nerding out on it. So it's been kind of the whole construction technology stuff's been super interesting just to see the stuff people are way smarter than me, but the stuff they're coming up with.
oh yeah, like electricians. Yeah.
They're not the Silicon Valley electricians.
No. All right.
Well, if you ain't got nothing else, I guess we'll wrap it up there.
I think we're at about an hour here, so I think it's probably about time to wrap it up.
I appreciate everybody joining us and participating. This one was fun. We'll have to do it again, do another one of these live streams on LinkedIn again. If you want to participate in all of the other, all our podcasts, we do have a live audience. Is if you go to constructionyeti.substack.com and sign up there, it's kind of the paid premium version to be in the live audience of all of the other podcast recordings. So if you're interested, go do that. And other than that, I appreciate everybody, and we'll see y'all again another time.
Yeah, thanks everybody that joined. It was a good time. It was fun talking with you again, Matt, as always. But keep tuning in, everybody. Got some good stuff upcoming here. Good guests coming on board here soon.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
See y'all.
All right. Thanks, everyone.